I've spent most of my career helping organizations turn good intentions into measurable results. We primarily work with business leaders, business owners, members of the board that, are looking to grow their companies and their organizations. And I noticed kind of early in my career that something that happens in businesses all the time is people work really hard. I'm sure you can relate, Carmen. You have
Yeah.
a business, you have a ministry. I know you work really hard.
Yes.
I'm working really hard in my business. So everyone works really hard, but sometimes all that hard work doesn't produce the outcomes we want. And so I started VisionEdge Marketing in 1999 after a 20-year corporate career with the idea of helping these C-suite members be able to make more confident decisions to that so they can attract customers that fit and retain customers that matter so they can get to their next level of growth faster without guessing. So we have a very strong orientation around data.
Wow, great, excellent. So how long have you had your business? And
Like
where's your business
I,
located?
yeah, so I started Vision Edge Marketing in 1999. It's hard to believe how
Wow.
quickly time has passed. And in that time, we've had the privilege of working with hundreds of B2B companies all over the world. Um, we advise executives and boards. And in that time, I've written 4 books. My fourth book, Fast
Wow,
Track Your
great.
Business, has done really well. And speaking, which you mentioned, you were kind to mention to leaders all over the world about how they can connect strategy and customers and results.
Wow, awesome. So tell us about your books you've written for us.
Fast Track Your Business, which you can see on the shelf here,
Yes.
is really a culmination of a life's work around customer centricity. So my philosophy is that if you can create customer value, you'll create business value.
Oh,
You
yeah.
create business value, you create shareholder value. And you can reduce your risk, right, and improve your performance by focusing on and taking a customer-centric approach to your business. So that's essentially what Fast Track helps uh, people do. That we have a methodology called Circle of Traction, and we
Okay.
just take you through that entire methodology in the book so that you can make improvements on how you work with customers so you can find customers faster, attract the right ones, and keep the ones that are important to you.
Wow, awesome, awesome. So you mentioned 4 books. So tell us what are the names of your other 3 books and what are they about?
My very first book was called Gone Fishing.
Okay.
And it was really about sales and marketing and how they work together to help you grow your company and acquire customers. So it was really much more focused on customer acquisition with a little bit on customer retention, but predominantly the concept of fishing and how using fishing as a metaphor to
Yeah.
help business owners. And the 2 books in the middle uh, focus on measurement, alignment, and accountability. So I'm really privileged to have been a pioneer in the marketing performance management space. And, marketing for many companies is with a little m, and we think of marketing with a really big M, that, the 2 things that Peter Drucker said every company needs is innovation and marketing. And the idea that marketing's job is to find, keep, and grow profitable customers. And
Yeah.
that we need to be able to show how the money we invest on behalf of the company is making a difference for the company. And so we've done a lot of work since 2001. We did a a study for decades over what the best in class marketing leaders do to prove their value and demonstrate their impact and contribution to the business. And both of those books take that research and incorporate the findings of that research with recommendations and ideas
Oh,
to
wow,
help
great.
business leaders. Yeah,
Wow, awesome. Wow. Very good. Excellent.
thank you.
So can you tell us what are some of your short-term and long-term goals?
Oh, wow.
Hmm.
Well, I think for everybody, right now, the short term goals are always are to serve our, and long term, I guess, is to serve our customers. I mean, that's what we really believe in. Uh, if service before commerce is sort of a philosophy of our company. So, taking care of our customers, we have been really blessed with wonderful customers. So continuing to do that and hopefully to expand our work. And I started last year a new personal platform, laurapatterson.co, which is where I'm working with leadership teams with one of my sort of passion areas, which is about eliminating the random acts that drain their energy and stall out growth, and help them get sort of refocused and get strategic clarity so that they can be more successful.
Wow, that's awesome. Excellent. Wow. So what advice would you give to someone who's thinking about starting a business?
Okay, so um, that's a big question, but I would say start with clarity about who you want to serve and the problem you are uniquely equipped to solve. A lot of people begin with an idea or a product, and the real key, if from again, our customer-centric approach is to understand what your customers value, what they need that they can't get somewhere else, and then how you can create that for them, what you do well will give
Okay.
them something that they want of value.
Mm.
And then, I believe remaining curious is really important for all of us as part of growing. So the best leaders, the best entrepreneurs, they keep learning, they adjust, they adapt, and they refine their approach over time.
Oh, wow. Awesome. Wonderful. So how can our listeners connect with you, Laura?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn. That's a community I spend a lot of time in. So you can find
Okay.
me on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to connect with people. And of course, you can reach out to me on visionedgemarketing.com, which is a great way to connect with me. My email is laurap@visionedgemarketing.com. So I love hearing from folks, and if we can, help them be more successful, be happy to explore how we could do that.
Okay, excellent. So tell us, how has your faith influenced your work?
Well, I'm a pretty spiritual person. I hope that I know that's not in vogue these days, but I was raised in a very observant and religious home. So faith is a big part of our lives. And I think faith, kind of shows up in our values. And I value things like integrity, stewardship, service. I think that's all part of faith. And,
Yes.
Carmen, I kind of believe that whatever role, we've been given by the universe, we have a responsibility to use our capabilities, our abilities to help others succeed and to make the work that we do meaningful. So that's kind of a part of how I think faith shows up um, for me.
Okay, wonderful. So can you share a moment when you clearly saw guiding your ministry or guiding your business?
Well, I think God's with us every day. I think He guides us all every day if we're just willing to listen. Again, I know that's probably out of fashion, but one moment that stands out for me is, when I made the decision to start Vision Edge Marketing. I mean, I really didn't know anything about being an
Mhm.
entrepreneur. I didn't really know anything about running a company. I mean, I'd been in corporate, I'd seen companies run well and not so well. I'd worked with entrepreneurs, but it's different when it's going to be your own. And so obviously leaving what people think of the security. I don't know if that's really a true security, but the security of a traditional career path, that's a big decision. And, I just relied on my faith that
Yes.
uh, this would
Yes.
be it would all work out. That if I focus on helping organizations operate with greater clarity and purpose, it would all result in a benefit for them and for me. So, looking back, to 1999, so that's a few decades, 2 decades ago, um, it was a step that opened the door to opportunities I never would have been able to predict, like having an opportunity to be on this podcast.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Yes. Well, I truly believe that it is important that God does lead and guide us, but we have to allow Him to lead and guide us. And when we do, then success is guaranteed and failure is not an option.
Well, we can still fail. It happens, it doesn't mean you won't fail, but maybe you learn something from that. And then when you get back up and dust yourself off, the next thing will be better.
Okay. So tell us, what kinds of challenges have you faced and how have you overcome them in running your business?
Well, like any entrepreneur that's been around since 1999, I've gone through a lot of ups and downs, the dot-com bust, of course, 9/11. the financial crisis of 2008 through 2010, COVID, just to name a few of things that are beyond our control. And, I think that's something we all need to remember. We are not in control of everything. Most things are not in our control. Then focusing on the things we can control, I think, is really important. So building something new, requires faith. It requires persistence, patience, and belief, in the value of what we're creating. We have to believe in what we are doing, that what we're doing
Absolutely.
is serving a purpose. Otherwise, we would give up. And what kind of helped me through moments, in case people listening might be having one of those moments, it can happen at any time, is staying grounded in my purpose behind my work. What is the purpose behind my work? And helping other leaders make more confident decisions, helping organizations succeed in ways that truly matter. That is a reason to keep on going.
Absolutely. Yes, that's great. Yes, we have to stay rooted and grounded and
Yes.
persevere.
Yes.
Because, as you mentioned, we're going to have ups and downs, but the key is we can overcome them and move forward and learn from those. So tell us,
Exactly.
what scripture or spiritual principle has been foundational for your journey?
Well, I probably hard to get it down to one because as I'm thinking about it, there are probably a number of principles.
Okay.
But one that I would share that has really kind of guided me is the idea of stewardship.
Okay.
And people don't really talk about stewardship very much, but using the talents and opportunities we're given in a responsible and purposeful way. That's kind of how I think about it. And it's some kind of a mindset that encourages thoughtful leadership, and it reminds us that our work can create ripples right beyond ourselves. And
Yes,
I think sometimes we forget that it's not all about us.
that's right. To me, I enjoy helping other people, and I'm blessed when I do that. I enjoy helping people realize their dreams of starting a business and or a nonprofit organization, because I know that when I do, I'm helping to impact the people that they're impacting. I'm doing it from indirectly, but I'm still impacting them. So
Yes,
that brings blessing and joy to me. So I thank God for giving me all my spiritual gifts and talents. Yeah,
exactly. Every day.
yes. But then you can share some other scriptures that have helped you along the way, Laura.
Say that one more time, Carmen.
You can share some other scriptures or
Um, it- not necessarily
principles principles.
scriptures, principles. Do the right thing. How about that?
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Right? Do the right thing, um, and I look around sometimes at some of the people that I encounter, and we all have to make choices every day.
Yes,
It is about a choice. And people think that they don't have choices, but everything we do is a choice.
that's right.
And I try to make the choice that is the right thing. It may not necessarily be the easy thing. And it sometimes may not necessarily even be what's the best thing for me, but it's the right thing to do. That
Okay.
I think is a really important principle.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. Yes. What message has God placed on your heart that you would like to share with our listeners today?
Yeah, I think clarity, right? And for my work, it's really strategic clarity. But for my life, it's just generally clarity.
Okay.
Because when you have clarity, you can operate in the world with confidence. And it's easy to be fearful. There's so many negative messages that it's easy to become fearful, and fear, kind of paralyzes action. But when you have clarity, you have confidence, and when you have confidence, you can act. And
Yes.
I think that's really important. So whether you're in a business or you're serving your community in some other way or pursuing a calling, progress or action, it's a lot easier when you understand what really matters and where to focus your effort. And that's where clarity comes in. And, a lot of people, I think, struggle because they really lack the ability, not because they aren't able to do something. I think we have enormous amount of talent around us all the time, but because their energy is diffused or scattered, or they're just trying to do too many things. So they operate, in a random way. So
Mhm.
when you replace all that randomness with clarity and intention, things in your life change.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. Wonderful message. Yes, I agree wholeheartedly. So what has been the most rewarding part of the work that you do, Laura?
Uh, when your customer tells you or a leader tells you, thank you, you help make a difference for my life, for my business, for my community, and that they feel more confident about the direction they're taking, that is extremely rewarding. And when I see a team, get aligned around the same outcomes and priorities, and they can start seeing real progress, and I see how it changes the way the organization operates, that's also really fulfilling. So knowing that the work I'm doing is helping others
Yeah,
is, I think, makes me want to do it every day.
wonderful. We should be passionate about the work that we do. If not, then we need to go in and evaluate and see what needs to be changed.
I
Because when you're
agree.
not passionate about what you do, then you lack fulfillment and you lack peace. And that definitely affects all parts of your life.
I agree.
So, okay, thank you. So, what legacy do you hope your business will leave?
Well, I don't think about legacy. I probably should give that a little more thought, but I hope that the legacy of our work is that more companies and more people, they'll operate with intention rather than just doing. I believe in good habits, and we need habits and rituals to operate in our life. But sometimes I think people are just doing, and they're not really doing it, intentionally
I
and
see.
and deliberately. And so I think I'm hoping that that will be a part of the legacy I leave. If leaders can make, the decisions that are thoughtful, customer focused, grounded in purpose, um, so that they can have a positive impact, I think that would be a great legacy.
Yeah, that's awesome. I agree wholeheartedly. Yes. So, what encouragement would you give to someone who feels called to do something greater but is afraid to step out in faith?
Yeah. Fear is, we all live with fear. Uh, Bravery and courage, isn't something that you have unless you have fear. Right? So I mean, think about it. It's not
Yeah.
if you're it's not hard to be brave or have courage if you're not afraid. It's hard when you're afraid.
Good
So
point.
so I think most meaningful work requires courage. And it's easy to be afraid and worry about failing. I think, we spend too much time worrying about failing instead of thinking about what if we didn't fail, then what?
Yeah.
So, if for anyone that's, thinking about stepping out, I would just say you don't have to have every answer. In fact, you won't have every answer. You just have to take the first thoughtful step and, being able to ask good questions and listen uh, can be a lot more valuable than having an answer. And then just remember that sometimes if you're not sure, um, you know, prayer can give you a lot of guidance
Yes,
on and help you get that clarity.
that's right. I agree wholeheartedly. So if you could leave our audience with one or two takeaways today, what would those be?
Um, be intentional in your action, and realize that you are everything you are doing. I want to say it's like the butterfly effect. I don't want, we're not we don't have that kind of power, but when you are interacting or doing something with another human being, you are having a huge impact on that other person in some way or another. So be intentional, be thoughtful about what you're doing. And then, don't go around in the world with random acts and fall into the random acts of life, the random acts of work, because then you will feel like you don't have purpose. So if you pause and you step back and you focus on what really matters, and then you can create greater impact and you can be more confident and you will live a life of purpose.
Wow, that's awesome. It's very well stated. Excellent. Yes. So again, Laura, tell us how can people reach you? How can they connect with you?
Email Laura P. LAURAP for Peter, at Vision Edge Marketing, vision like in sight, edge like the edge of a knife, marketing,
Mhm.
all one word, all spelled out, .com. I would have named the company something else if I knew I was going to have that long of a URL. Anyway, that's a great way to reach me, or through LinkedIn.
Okay, okay, great. Well, we want to thank you again for being our special guest today, Laura. I really appreciate you and all that you're doing and the impact that you're having in the lives of so many people and businesses. So keep up the good work. You're doing
Thank you.
great. And again, thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, Carmen.